Zoom side of things, and then we'll get right into our public hearing. Okay, welcome. We're going to be starting our public hearing, rezoning property located at 3855 Hawk Road from general business to public facility. And it's our ordinance this evening of 2021-01. Mr. Creech.
Good evening, City Council. Let's see. Where is that? Oh, it's
Shared.
hidden.
It's right,
There it is.
yeah, right there.
All right. All right. Good evening. This ordinance is ordinance number 2021-01, first ordinance of the year. It's a request to rezone the property located at 3855 Houck Road. It's the Clarion Hotel. This request was submitted by Mr. Charles Mahabir of Kiwi Hospitality. They are the owners of that property. They're requesting to rezone that property from general business to public facilities. Property is about 7 acres in size. They are proposing to rezone approximately 4.68 acres to PF, and the balance of that property will remain general business, the current zoning. Their intention is to convert that former hotel, it's about 273 units, into 131 units of senior apartments. The PF zone is the actual zoning district of the city that permits age-restricted housing, such as elderly housing. That's why they're making that request. If this request is approved by City Council, they will return to the Planning Commission for a site plan development review of their plans, improvement plans to the property. Planning Commission reviewed and approved the rezoning request on December 9th of last year, and they do recommend approval by way of Resolution 2024. This just gives you an idea of the property here. This is the portion where the building is and the old restaurant. That is the portion that's proposed to be redeveloped if the rezoning is approved. And the balance of the property there behind the McDonald's and right there along the interstate highway, that would remain general business. Be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Mahabir is here, as well as Mr. Paresh of Kiwi Hospitality. If you have any questions.
Anyone with questions? I don't see anybody right now. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak tonight regarding this? And there's no one. All right. We will go ahead then, since no one wants to speak on this, and go ahead and close out the public hearing. Thank you very much, Mr. Creech. And gentlemen, did you want to speak on your behalf? You're welcome to. Okay. I just wanted to give you an opportunity if you wanted to talk. All right. Thank you, Mr. McKeon. You are our technology guru. All right, we will go ahead now and call to order our city council meeting. If everyone would please rise, and we're going to have a moment of silent prayer and then the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to ask Mr. Wilson if he would take charge of this with Mr. Tankersley's absence or on Zoom. Thank you.
Amen. Before we say the pledge tonight, I ask you to just slow it down just a little bit, really think about the words that we're saying. This is our promise. This is our pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Lippert,
Here.
Mr. Duda, Mr. Cook,
Here.
Mrs. Knight, Mr. Schmidt.
Here.
What do you need? Pull it down. Is there one right here? He was looking for a mic. Grab one. Yeah, just pull it down. Thank you. Approval of minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes that were emailed out? Seeing none, those stand as written and distributed. Reports and communication. Mayor Hardman.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you, Ms. Hoppy, as well as Councilmember Lippert for assisting me in some second round of interviews with regard to our Public Works Director / City Engineer position. We are this close, I think, to finally making a determination on that. And hopefully in the next few weeks, you should hear a direction that we're going on. But thank you to the two of you for your assistance in that realm. Speaking of hiring, we completed the hiring process for our hotel liaison. And so this past Monday, I believe it was, yesterday, he had his first day with us. And if you haven't heard and haven't met, so former Chief Mathis from Springdale has taken over that role, and we are really excited. I think when we met with him, he's got some really great ideas to help tie all this together, get all of our departments working together to help make all of this work the way we want it to. So I'm excited about that opportunity and helping to continue to work with all of our lodging properties that exist here in Sharonville to make sure that they are serving the customers that they bring in, as well as the city well. Other than that, that is all I have. And let me thank our Public Works crew for the great job they did last week or 2 weeks ago, the last time we had snow, but we haven't had a snow like yesterday since 2008, I think is what I heard. And I will say, I will always say, but I think I can say our Public Works crew does a bang up job. It's great to, I leave here to go somewhere else during the day, and I did that this morning. And the roads I hit on Sharonville were clean and clear. Once I hit a line, it was slushy and messy and gross. So they do a great job, and I want to commend them for their hard work, because that was probably the best snow that they got.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, we'll move on to our Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Follow up to Mayor Hardman's item about the hotel liaison. We are planning on bringing Mike here next council meeting, just to introduce him to all of you as well.
You didn't want us to scare him off right away?
Yeah.
That's what it was. I just asked.
There's 3 pieces of legislation for council's consideration this evening. The first item, 2021-01, was the subject of our public hearing. The second item is ordinance 2021-08E, which is the purchase of a medic unit. Chief Mousa is on Zoom tonight just to briefly talk about that.
Good evening, everyone. So yes, we're looking to purchase another Horton medic unit, disposing of our current, the final Braun medic unit that we have in the department from 2016 at about $245,000, which is still holding true to the previous cost of our previous 3 units from Horton, and they're still holding their price line for us, which is appreciated. We're getting us at 2020 pricing, so long as we can approve this by the 20th of February. And that saves us, I believe, about $7,200. So I'd appreciate it if we can get that passed this evening and move forward with it.
Are there any questions about it? Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the last piece of legislation, resolution 2021-01E,
deals with a MOU with the FBI's Child Exploitation Task Force. Chief Vanover is here this evening to say a few words on that, as well as making some introductions with.
Good evening, everyone. I'll keep my words short. So the resolution in front of you tonight is allowing the Safety Service Director and me as the Chief of Police to enter into an MOU with the FBI's Cincinnati Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force. It's a task force that we've worked closely with in the past. They've been a great asset in assisting us and us helping them and some of our prostitution operations and those type of things, looking for people who are being trafficked in the sexually oriented areas and those type of things. I'm going to turn it over to the real experts. I've got Special Agent Dave Hall from the Cincinnati Field Office and Special Agent John Jones from the Cincinnati Field Office. I also have Detective Lieutenant Keith Schoonover back here in the back. We've worked really closely with this task force for the past several years. I'll let you guys say a few words about the task force.
All right, well, we appreciate being invited here this evening. The task force here in Cincinnati has been in operation for about 10 years. Currently, formal members of the task force include the Cincinnati Police Department, Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, as well as Department of Homeland Security. As Chief Vanover stated, we've had a very strong working relationship with the Sharonville Police Department going back many years. Due in large part to the work that many of his officers have done, they've identified issues that have ultimately come to the task force and resulted in multiple federal convictions and recovery of several minor victims of trafficking, as well as identification of adult victims of human trafficking. The task force itself, as far as its work, does handle human trafficking as well as child exploitation, which is generally child pornography and sex trafficking, as well as occasionally kidnapping. What we hope to do with your police department is to formalize a relationship that has effectively been in place for years. It'll give your officers the opportunity to get some insight into the federal process and the way that our organization works, but at the same time, we desire for your officers to stay within the city, do the things that they do every day. And that is really the benefit to us, because this is your city. Your officers understand the demographics, the businesses, and everything that goes along with that. With that being the case, does anybody have any questions about the task force or what we hope to achieve?
Anyone? I think they're good. Thank you very much, though.
All right, thank you.
We appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Lucas this evening? Seeing none, we'll go on. I just want to briefly, I was going to thank Public Works, and I think we all will eventually. I actually got to have dropped lunch off to them today, so that was kind of fun. They were wore out. And you can see that in their eyes. They were tired. But according to Mike, they enjoyed a lunch. Everybody sat in their large break room together and were able to take a little bit of a break and just relax for a minute or two. And they had a nice hot lunch. So hopefully they enjoyed it. And it was kind of nice just to get to say thank you in person. So I also just wanted to send out condolences to the village of Glendale. Last weekend, I believe it was, they lost their longtime mayor, Dr. Todd. He was also a Princeton team physician. And so that was a big loss for their community. So condolences to them. And that's all my report. We'll move on to our clerk of council, Mrs. Buhite.
Thanks. I have no report, though.
Thank you.
Sure.
Our law director, Mr. Pete Meyer. Okay. Now's an opportunity. Residents that wish to be heard this evening, if you'd like to come up.
Good evening. I'm Tim Schmidt, 12215 Pickwick Place. I want to agree with Mr. Mayor and Madam President and thank the public works people, the road crews that have taken such good care of our roads for the past couple, the previous snow and that, and of course, this last one, which was very important. I just want to go on record to thank them. Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't see anyone in our other chat room, so I'm going to assume no one else wanted to join us or speak. Anyone else this evening? Seeing none, we'll go to our council committees. Community Development, Mr. Tankersley.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, thank you for filling it in for me this evening. I got an email from Mr. Creech today on March the 10th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. in City Hall. We'll be having the zoning code update with the steering committee. So if anybody not on the email would like to attend, let Mr. Creech know. And then that way he will send you the information. Other than that, that's all I have for this evening. And it was a good choice on Mike Mathis for the convention center position. And I will also put a kudos out to our public works department. Other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll go to Community Services, Mr. Lippard.
Of course, I agree with everyone about what they said about Public Works. So we met on February 3rd. The written reports are on file with Mrs. Buhite. Some specifics, the westerly portion of Kemper Road at Chester, the OPWC project is coming to fruition, and Mr. Wilson asked about extending sidewalks to the bus stops in that area. We talked about that. There was a consensus to kind of take a wait and see approach by the committee and look for some alternative sources of funding. In addition, we talked about the Kemper Road path. I'll call it a sidewalk and not a path, I guess. Going up towards Sharon Roads, the easterly portion of Kemper Road, decision was made by the committee to use the path of the already existing sidewalk area where it's already existing. And we also finalized the Gorman Park layout. So the engineering group MSP will be able to get into more specifics, but the design as the full layout of the park is pretty much final. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Did anyone have questions regarding that? Seeing none, we'll go on to our budget and finance. Mr. Cook?
Thank you. No report for budget and finance or project oversight, but I do want to remind everyone our next project oversight meeting will be on February 23rd at 6 p.m. in council chambers. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Honored citizens, Mrs. Knight?
I agree. I'm going to honor the Public Works, Mike Carlson and his crew. They did an excellent job. I know when I looked out at my window at 7, I had a path down Malayer Drive. As I'm watching the news, their roads were covered everywhere else. So kudos to all them. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Well, thank you. Same comments to all of the previous people have made with regard to the response to the snow. The next Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be the 16th, 4 o'clock here in council chambers. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Rule suspension motion for first and only reading, immediate effectivity for ordinance 2021-08E and resolution 2020-R01E. Is there a motion? So moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Duda. Any questions? All those in favor, yes. Those opposed, no. And that stands. Unfinished business, please.
Okay. This is a third reading of ordinance 2021-01, rezoning property located at 3855 Hawk Road, auditor parcel numbers 608-0028-0023, from general business to public facilities.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2021-01? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Cook. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda, Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt. Okay, ordinance 2021-01 has been approved.
There you go, gentlemen. Thank you.
This is a second reading and a third reading of emergency ordinance 2021-08E, authorizing the safety service director to enter into a contract to purchase a medic unit and dispose of an existing medic unit and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2021-08E? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda, Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2021-08E has been approved.
Chief Mousa, go by that Life Squad.
And this is a second reading of ordinance 2021-09, authorizing safety service director to enter into a contract with the Kleiners Group, Inc., to provide engineering and site plan review for calendar year 2021 and approving the Kleiners Group, Inc.'s 2021 fee schedule. And this is a second reading and third reading of Emergency Resolution 2021-R01E, a resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director and Chief of Police to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Cincinnati Child Exploitation Task Force, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass resolution 2021-01E? So moved by Mr. Cook, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda, Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Emergency Resolution 2021-R01E has been approved. That is unfinished.
And we'll go with new business now, please.
All right. First reading of ordinance 2021-11, amending section 1305.99 of the Sharonville Municipal Code. First reading of emergency ordinance 2021-12E, authorizing assistance to the Sharonville Fine Arts Council and declaring an emergency. That's just a first reading.
Perfect, thank you. Residents wishing to be heard this evening, or anyone else? Are there any other matters to be brought before council this evening? Mr. Cook?
I will share my public works story. So this morning I was helping a neighbor, had the snow blower out, and as the driver came along with the snow plow, he had one hand on the wheel, and then he gave me the raise the roof on the other one, and a big old smile. So they did a great job, and I thought that was great. Great attitude. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else this evening? No other matters. Is there a motion for adjournment? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Lippert. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Do stand adjourned. Thank you.